Have you ever wondered where you truly come from? Is life just a series of fleeting moments, or is there a deeper, continuous thread that connects us to past lives and future destinies? The question of our origins, our consciousness, and the cycle of birth and rebirth has puzzled humanity for centuries. And today, we're diving into one of the most profound mysteries of existence. In this video, we'll explore the Buddhist perspective on reincarnation, karma, and how our actions ripple through time. But that's not all. This is a topic that bridges ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science. Trust me, you don't want to miss a second of this discussion. By the end, you'll not only gain a deeper understanding of your existence, but you'll see your life, your choices, and your future in an entirely new light. So, stay tuned until the end. This video holds the answers to questions you've been asking for a lifetime. Part 1, the age-old question about our origins. The question of where we truly come from is not just a philosophical riddle, it's a question that has echoed in the hearts of humanity for as long as we have been able to ask such questions. It's not just about where we were born or who our parents are. It goes deeper, extending beyond the confines of this lifetime. It asks about our origins, the essence of who we are, and where this journey began. In Buddhism, this question is tackled from a unique perspective. The Buddha himself embarked on a profound journey to understand the nature of existence, to uncover the truths hidden beneath the surface of our daily experiences. After attaining enlightenment, he famously stated, "Through countless births, I wandered, seeking but not finding the builder of this house." While the house he refers to isn't a physical one, it represents our individual existence, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that we are caught in. But who, or what, is the builder of this house? Interestingly, the Buddha did not point to a god or an external creator as the builder. Instead, he identified the builder as our own craving, ignorance, and attachments, the very desires and misunderstandings that keep us trapped in the cycle of samsara, or rebirth. This realization was a key turning point in his teachings. It was through understanding the nature of these attachments that he proposed the path to liberation, a way to break free from the endless cycle of suffering. But what does this mean for us, in our modern lives, where such questions might seem abstract or even unnecessary? To better understand, let's look at how this idea of origins is not just a religious or philosophical issue but one that has also intrigued scientists and scholars across the world. Many religious traditions have their own answers. Christianity, for instance, often believes that a divine creator forms the soul at the moment of conception, tying the origin of our existence directly to a creator God. In contrast, Hinduism and Buddhism present reincarnation as a cyclical view of the universe, a continuous flow of consciousness that passes from one life to the next. This perspective isn't just a matter of faith or speculation. Modern research has uncovered striking examples of people recalling memories of past lives, suggesting that there might be more to our origins than just a singular beginning. The University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies has spent over 50 years documenting cases of young children who claim to remember their past lives. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a pioneer in this field, carefully catalogued over 2,500 cases of children who, often between the ages of 2 and 6, spontaneously begin describing details about a previous life. These details are not vague recollections, but remarkably specific facts, names of family members, places they had lived, and even events that occurred, all of which are often verified by adults who knew the individuals these children claimed to have been. Take, for example, the case of Shanti Devi, a girl from India who, at the age of 4, began describing in vivid detail her previous life in a town she had never visited. She could name her past husband, describe the house she lived in, and recount the circumstances surrounding her death, all of which were confirmed by others in her past community. How can such specific recollections be explained if not by the existence of past lives? This research doesn't simply reaffirm Buddhist teachings, it raises important questions about the nature of consciousness itself. In Buddhism, the concept of consciousness is fluid, it's not a permanent, fixed entity that lives or dies with the body. Instead, it's viewed as a continuous stream, like a river. The water may change from moment to moment, but the river itself remains the same. Similarly, our consciousness, according to Buddhist thought, flows from one life to the next, carrying with it the imprints of past actions and experiences. These imprints, or karmic traces, shape who we are in this life, and potentially in the next one. But how does this idea fit with modern science? Neuroscience and psychology have long grappled with questions about consciousness, identity, and memory. The hard problem of consciousness, as philosopher David Chalmers describes it, is the difficulty in explaining how subjective experiences arise from physical processes in the brain. How do the electrochemical activities of neurons give rise to the feeling of being, the experience of seeing the color red, or the sensation of joy? Materialistic approaches to neuroscience often struggle to account for these subjective experiences, leaving us to wonder, is consciousness merely a byproduct of the brain, or is there something more fundamental at play? Buddhism offers a different perspective. It suggests that consciousness is not confined to the brain, rather, the brain exists within the larger field of consciousness. This means that consciousness isn't created by the brain, but rather, the brain is a tool through which consciousness interacts with the world. In a way, this parallels recent scientific findings that suggest consciousness may extend beyond the brain, interconnected with the body and the environment in ways we are only beginning to understand. Studies in the emerging field of contemplative neuroscience show that meditation and mindfulness practices can physically alter the brain, increasing areas associated with attention, compassion, and self-awareness. This change is not merely superficial, it aligns with Buddhist practices aimed at refining our awareness to perceive the deeper truths of existence. In this context, the Buddhist view of reincarnation doesn't seem so far-fetched. It's not just a metaphysical theory, but an understanding of consciousness as a continuous process, influenced by our actions, intentions, and experiences. The imprints of these actions, our karma, are not limited to this life, but shape the consciousness that continues through different lives. It's a dynamic process, not bound by the rigid concept of a permanent soul, but instead shaped by the ongoing flow of consciousness that moves, changes, and evolves. This view challenges conventional understanding, not just in religious terms, but in scientific terms as well. What if the very nature of consciousness is such that it transcends the body, and what if the continuity of our existence, from one life to the next, is not something we can simply dismiss as fantasy or superstition? The experiences of those who remember past lives, the scientific studies supporting these claims, and the philosophical teachings of Buddhism all point to a deeper, interconnected reality that we have yet to fully grasp. The Buddha's silence when asked about the ultimate origins of existence speaks to the limitations of our conventional thinking. He did not deny the possibility of a creator or a first cause, but instead recognized that such questions, while intriguing, miss the point of what is truly important, the reality of suffering, its causes, and the path to liberation. Understanding our origins may be important, but it is even more important to understand how to live with awareness, how to free ourselves from the attachments and ignorance that bind us to suffering, and how to cultivate the wisdom that will lead to liberation. This teaching is not about finding a single, static answer to the question of our origins. It's about recognizing the fluidity of our existence and our consciousness, understanding that the true question lies not in where we came from, but in where we are going and how we can break free from the cycle of suffering that has defined our existence for countless lifetimes. Part 2: Past Lives and Reincarnation. When we turn our attention to the concept of past lives and reincarnation, we are delving into one of the most profound aspects of Buddhist philosophy. The idea that our consciousness is not limited to a single lifetime but rather flows through countless cycles of birth, death, and rebirth challenges our conventional understanding of existence. It asks us to reconsider everything we think we know about ourselves, our identity, our purpose, and the very nature of life itself. In Buddhism, reincarnation is not just a matter of mystical belief, it is deeply entwined with the teachings on karma, the law of cause and effect. Each thought, action, and intention we have creates imprints on our consciousness, which, like seeds, sprout into future experiences. These karmic imprints accumulate over lifetimes, influencing our present circumstances and shaping the future. In this sense, reincarnation is not simply about beginning a new life, but rather continuing a process of becoming, a journey of evolution that spans multiple lifetimes. The Buddha's own experience with past lives offers a profound glimpse into this idea. It is said that during his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha gained a deep understanding of his many past lives. He didn't merely recall a single past life, he saw countless lives, stretching across time, filled with joy, suffering, and every possible human experience. This wasn't a vague recollection, it was a vivid, direct experience of the continuity of his consciousness through many different forms. This experience was crucial for the Buddha's understanding of the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. He saw how his own past actions, his karma, had shaped his experience, leading to both happiness and suffering. In recalling these past lives, he realized that the cycle of birth and death was not an accident or a cosmic punishment, but a result of the actions and choices made in previous lifetimes. For many of us, the idea of past lives may seem difficult to grasp, or even fantastical. After all, we live in a world that emphasizes the here and now, where the focus is on this life, our immediate goals, and tangible results. The notion of past lives, particularly in the Buddhist sense of reincarnation, is often dismissed as superstition or myth. But what if this view is limiting? What if there are deeper truths about our existence that we have yet to understand? Let's consider modern research into the phenomenon of past life memories. There have been numerous cases of young children who, without prior knowledge or external influence, recall vivid memories of lives they claim to have lived before. One of the most famous examples is that of Shanti Devi, a girl from India. At just 4 years old, she began describing her previous life in a town she had never visited. She named her past husband, described their house, and even recounted the details of her death, all of which were verified by people who knew her previous family. Her case has been studied extensively and continues to be one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the phenomenon of past life memories. Such stories are not limited to India or other areas where reincarnation is commonly believed. Across different cultures and societies, there have been similar accounts of people, especially young children, who claim to remember their past lives with an astonishing level of detail. What is particularly fascinating is the consistency with which these memories manifest. In many cases, the children are able to describe places they have never visited, people they have never met, and events they could not possibly know about. These memories are so precise that they have led researchers to uncover names, locations, and even specific historical details that the children had no prior knowledge of. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia, dedicated much of his career to studying these cases. His research, which involved over 2,500 documented cases of past life memories in children, provides compelling evidence that something beyond simple coincidence is at play. Stevenson's work shows that these children's memories are not just random stories, but coherent, verifiable accounts that often align with historical facts. However, while these cases are intriguing, they do not provide definitive proof of reincarnation. Skeptics argue that these memories could be the result of suggestion, cultural influence, or even the mind's ability to fabricate false memories. Nonetheless, The fact that these memories are so consistent across cultures and regions is a strong indicator that there is more to this phenomenon than meets the eye. What's more, even adults have been known to experience spontaneous recollections of past lives. In some instances, these memories are triggered by specific places, smells, or experiences that seem to tap into something deep within the individual's subconscious. For instance, a person may suddenly feel an overwhelming sense of familiarity when visiting a place they've never been before, or they might experience a strange emotional reaction to something completely unconnected to their current life. These experiences, which are often dismissed as mere coincidence or imagination, may hold clues about the continuity of consciousness and the possibility of past lives. But even if we cannot fully explain these phenomena through scientific methods, we can still consider their implications. From a Buddhist perspective, past lives are not just random occurrences or unexplained events, they are part of the ongoing flow of consciousness that transcends individual lifetimes. Our actions, intentions, and choices ripple through time, leaving imprints on the consciousness that continues from one life to the next. Reincarnation, then, is not about starting over from scratch, it's about continuing a journey, evolving through the choices we make and the lessons we learn. This idea of reincarnation also sheds light on the Buddhist understanding of suffering and liberation. If we accept that we carry the imprints of past actions, both good and bad, then it follows that we are not merely victims of our circumstances, but active participants in the unfolding of our lives. We are the creators of our own destiny, and through conscious effort, we can change the course of our future. This is the essence of karma, the law of cause and effect that governs the universe. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises when we are unaware of the karmic imprints we carry with us. These imprints manifest in our desires, attachments, and aversions, which keep us bound to the cycle of birth and death. But by understanding the nature of our past lives and the karma that has shaped our present existence, we can begin to break free from these attachments. We can make conscious choices to cultivate positive karma, to act with compassion, wisdom, and mindfulness, and thus create the conditions for liberation. In this sense, reincarnation is not a fate to be feared, but a process to be understood. It is not about being trapped in a never-ending cycle of suffering, but about recognizing the opportunity for growth and transformation that each new life offers. Each birth is a chance to start anew, to learn from the past, and to move closer to the ultimate goal of enlightenment. The story of the Buddha's past lives is a powerful reminder of this truth. Through his countless rebirths, he experienced every form of suffering, from the pain of birth to the suffering of death. He saw how his actions in past lives shaped his present experience, and how, through understanding and wisdom, he was able to transcend the cycle of birth and death. This understanding became the foundation of his teachings, which offer us a path out of suffering and toward liberation. For those of us on the path, the idea of past lives and reincarnation is not something to be taken lightly. It challenges us to examine our own actions, our own karma, and the way we live our lives. It asks us to consider the deeper currents that shape our experience, to recognize that our actions today will echo through the future, not just in this life, but in the many lives yet to come. Ultimately, the teachings on past lives and reincarnation invite us to reflect on the vastness of our existence. They remind us that we are not isolated beings, limited to a single lifetime. We are part of a much larger, interconnected process, a flow of consciousness that transcends time and space. In this light, we are not just living for today, we are living for the future, shaping the course of our journey through the choices we make and the wisdom we cultivate. As we continue to explore the nature of past lives and reincarnation, we begin to uncover the profound truths that lie beneath the surface of our daily lives. These truths not only deepen our understanding of who we are, but they also offer us the key to living a life of greater meaning, purpose, and liberation. Through the teachings of the Buddha and the insights of modern science, we are invited to embark on a journey of discovery, a journey that spans past, present, and future, and leads us toward the ultimate goal of enlightenment. Part 3, the science behind reincarnation and karma. When we speak of reincarnation and karma, we are venturing into concepts that are as old as humanity itself. These ideas have been central to many religious traditions, particularly Buddhism, which teaches that the actions we take, the intentions we harbor, and the choices we make today shape not only our present lives but also our futures, both in this life and in the next. However, these ideas are not confined to the realms of philosophy and spirituality. Increasingly, modern science has begun to probe into the very nature of consciousness, memory, and the interconnectedness of existence, and in doing so, it has raised questions that align closely with Buddhist teachings on reincarnation and karma. Buddhism teaches that karma is not simply a system of moral judgment, nor is it a form of cosmic reward or punishment. Instead, karma is understood as the law of cause and effect. Each intentional action, whether physical, verbal, or mental, creates an imprint on the consciousness that influences future experiences. This is not merely a theoretical framework but a practical one that can be observed through the way our actions reverberate through our lives. What is fascinating is that modern science, particularly in the fields of neuroscience and psychology, has begun to explore the very processes that Buddhism points to as the foundations of karma. At the heart of Buddhist thought lies the idea that our consciousness is fluid, ever-changing, and deeply connected to our actions. This is where the connection between karma and reincarnation becomes crucial. If our actions create lasting imprints on our consciousness, it follows that these imprints, or karmic traces, don't disappear at death. Instead, they flow into the next life, shaping the nature of that existence. The cycle of reincarnation is, in essence, a continuous process of consciousness evolving through different forms, influenced by the accumulated karma from previous lives. But how does this concept of reincarnation fit within the framework of modern science? Is there any empirical evidence that supports the idea that consciousness extends beyond a single lifetime, and if so, how does karma influence this flow? The idea of reincarnation, the belief that the consciousness of an individual can persist beyond death and be reborn in another form, is often seen as a metaphysical or religious notion, outside the domain of scientific inquiry. However, there is a growing body of research that challenges this view. While science has yet to provide definitive proof of reincarnation, there have been compelling studies that suggest that certain aspects of reincarnation might not be as implausible as they first appear. One of the most notable areas of scientific investigation into reincarnation is the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatrist at the University of Virginia. For over 40 years, Stevenson documented thousands of cases in which children, often as young as 2 years old, reported memories of past lives. What made these cases so intriguing was that many of the details the children recalled, names, locations, events, and even circumstances of death, were often verifiable and matched up with real people and real events. In some instances, children were able to identify places they had never visited, describe families they had never met, and provide detailed information about events that had occurred long before they were born. For example, one child described a life he had lived as a soldier in World War II, complete with the name of the ship he had served on, the location of the battle he had fought in, and even the exact manner of his death. When researchers followed up on these claims, they found that they matched historical records in striking detail. While some skeptics have argued that these memories could be attributed to cultural influences, parental suggestion, or coincidence, the consistency and accuracy of these cases are difficult to dismiss. It's not just that children in one place or culture report past lives. Children from a variety of countries, backgrounds, and belief systems have reported similar experiences, often with an uncanny degree of specificity. This body of research does not prove the existence of reincarnation, but it does suggest that there may be something to the phenomenon of past life memories. Perhaps consciousness is not confined to the brain in the way we traditionally think, and the memories these children recall may be part of a larger, interconnected field of consciousness that transcends individual lifetimes. This is, of course, a concept that is not far removed from the Buddhist view of consciousness as a continuous stream, one that flows through different lives, shaped by the actions and intentions of past experiences. The idea that our actions, or karma, leave lasting imprints on our consciousness aligns closely with certain findings in neuroscience. In Buddhism, karma is not about the metaphysical tallying of good or bad deeds, but rather the subtle but powerful effects our actions have on the mind. Every thought, action, and emotion creates an imprint on the mind, shaping our consciousness in profound ways. Over time, these imprints accumulate, influencing our behavior, thoughts, and even our experiences in future lives. Neuroscience has long studied how repeated actions and experiences shape the brain. Through the process of neuroplasticity, the brain is constantly rewiring itself in response to the experiences we have. Positive experiences, such as practicing mindfulness or engaging in compassionate acts, strengthen neural pathways associated with well-being, while negative experiences, such as stress or anger, can reinforce pathways linked to suffering. This process of neural adaptation is one of the ways that karma manifests in the brain, as a network of habits, tendencies, and patterns that influence our behavior and emotional responses. But the science behind karma goes even deeper than just the rewiring of neural pathways. It also touches on the way that our experiences influence our perception of the world around us. According to the Buddhist view, karma shapes not only our future actions but also the way we perceive the world. The way we react to events, the way we relate to others, and even the way we interpret our circumstances are all influenced by the karmic imprints left by our past actions. In this sense, karma is not just about the actions we take, but the way we see and engage with the world, a perspective that can either lead to suffering or liberation. Neuroscience supports this view, suggesting that our perceptions are not purely objective but are heavily influenced by our past experiences, emotional states, and even our unconscious biases. This means that the way we experience life is deeply shaped by the karma we carry, even if we are not consciously aware of it. Our brain's ability to filter and interpret information is colored by the mental habits we have developed over time, which are in turn influenced by our past actions and decisions. At the core of both Buddhist philosophy and scientific inquiry is the concept of causality, the law of cause and effect. Buddhism teaches that every action has a consequence, and that these consequences ripple through our consciousness, influencing our present and future lives. This is the essence of karma, that our intentional actions shape our reality in profound and lasting ways. In modern science, causality is also a central concept. In physics, for instance, every action has a reaction, and this principle governs the behavior of everything in the universe, from the smallest particles to the largest celestial bodies. Similarly, in biology, our actions and decisions can affect not only our physical health but also our emotional and psychological well-being. The idea that our actions have consequences is as true in the scientific world as it is in the Buddhist worldview. However, karma offers a more nuanced perspective on causality. It teaches that the consequences of our actions are not always immediate and that they can span across multiple lifetimes. While modern science tends to focus on the immediate effects of our actions, Buddhism invites us to consider the long-term, often unseen effects that ripple through time, shaping the trajectory of our lives in ways that we may not fully understand. In exploring the scientific and spiritual perspectives on reincarnation and karma, we find striking parallels between the two. Buddhism offers a model of consciousness that is fluid, interconnected, and influenced by our actions across multiple lifetimes. Science, particularly through the work of researchers like Dr. Ian Stevenson and the findings in neuroscience, provides evidence that consciousness may extend beyond the brain and that our actions have lasting effects on both our brain and our experiences. While science cannot yet offer conclusive proof of reincarnation or the mechanisms of karma, the similarities between these spiritual teachings and scientific inquiry suggest that there is more to the nature of consciousness than we currently understand. What Buddhism teaches us, and what science is beginning to explore, is that our actions, our choices, and the way we engage with the world shape not only our present but our future, both in this life and in those that follow. In the end, the teachings of karma and reincarnation are not simply matters of faith. They are invitations to reflect on our lives, our actions, and the way we move through the world. By understanding the scientific underpinnings of these ideas and integrating them into our spiritual practice, we can cultivate greater awareness and compassion, creating positive karma that ripples through time and leads us toward the ultimate goal of enlightenment. Part 4. The Continuity of Consciousness. How does reincarnation work? The idea of reincarnation is one of the most profound and, for some, mysterious concepts in Buddhist philosophy. It suggests that life is not a singular event but part of an ongoing, continuous flow of existence. The belief in reincarnation implies that our consciousness, our very essence, does not simply end with the death of the body but rather continues, transitioning into new forms, new lives, and new experiences. Understanding how reincarnation works requires a deep look into the nature of consciousness itself, something that both Buddhism and modern science have long sought to understand. At the core of Buddhist teachings on reincarnation is the idea of the continuity of consciousness. Unlike Western perspectives, which often view consciousness as a single, isolated entity tied to the individual body, Buddhism teaches that consciousness is fluid, interconnected, and ever-evolving. This view is not only a spiritual insight but also aligns with emerging findings in the field of neuroscience, which is gradually shifting its perspective on the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the brain and body. In Buddhism, reincarnation is not about the transfer of a soul from one body to another, as is often imagined in many Western religious traditions. Rather, it is the ongoing continuity of the mind stream, a process that flows from one life to the next, shaped by our actions, thoughts, and intentions. This flow is influenced by the law of karma, where the actions we take in one life create imprints on our consciousness, which then affect our future lives. But what does this continuity of consciousness actually mean? How does the mind, which appears so tied to the body, continue after death? How do the experiences and memories of one life persist into the next? And, perhaps most importantly, how does this understanding of consciousness shape the way we view our lives and our actions? Buddhist teachings often use metaphors to explain abstract concepts, and one of the most effective analogies for understanding the continuity of consciousness is that of a river. Imagine a river flowing through time. The water that passes any given point is always changing. The current flows, the water shifts, and yet the river remains. The river is not made up of the same water from moment to moment, but it is still the same river, defined by its ongoing flow. In the same way, our consciousness is not a fixed, permanent entity, but a continuous stream that flows from one life to the next, evolving and adapting with each new moment. The key to understanding the continuity of consciousness in this way is to recognize that it is not the self or soul that carries forward, but rather the flow of mental and karmic energy that is constantly evolving. Just as a river can change its course, slow down, or speed up, our consciousness is subject to change, influenced by the conditions created by past actions, karma, yet it remains a continuous process. This analogy of the river also highlights an essential Buddhist teaching, impermanence. The water that flows through the river today is not the same as it was yesterday, yet the river itself remains constant. Similarly, our consciousness is constantly changing, influenced by new experiences and actions, but it remains fundamentally connected through the continuity of our mental processes and karmic imprints. Buddhism teaches that there is no permanent, unchanging self. This is one of the core teachings of anatta, or no self. The idea is that the self is not a fixed, isolated entity, but rather a collection of ever-changing physical and mental processes. These processes, known as the five aggregates, form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, interact with one another to create the illusion of a solid, independent self. But in reality, there is no permanent self that exists independently of these processes. This is where the concept of reincarnation diverges from popular notions of an eternal soul. In Buddhism, what reincarnates is not a soul or fixed identity, but a stream of consciousness that continues from one life to the next. This stream is shaped by the actions and decisions made in past lives, creating karmic imprints that influence the new life that follows. In this sense, reincarnation is not a mere restarting of the soul in a new body. It is the continuation of a process, a stream of consciousness that evolves over time. This idea can be challenging to grasp because it runs counter to the way we experience ourselves. We feel as though we are a single, continuous self, with a unique identity and a permanent essence. But Buddhism asks us to look deeper. It teaches that this sense of self is an illusion, a mental construct that arises from the way our mind processes information. When we let go of the attachment to a permanent self, we can begin to understand that our consciousness is not fixed or isolated, but part of an ongoing process of change and transformation. Karma, the law of cause and effect, plays a central role in the continuity of consciousness. In Buddhism, karma is not just a moral ledger of good and bad deeds but the imprint left on the consciousness by our actions, thoughts, and intentions. These karmic imprints accumulate over time, shaping the trajectory of our future lives. Imagine karma as a seed. Every action we take, whether positive or negative, plants a seed in our consciousness. Over time, these seeds grow, and their effects manifest in our lives. Some seeds bear fruit quickly, leading to immediate consequences, while others may take lifetimes to ripen. These seeds are not just records of our past deeds but active forces that shape the conditions of our future lives. In the context of reincarnation, karma acts as the driving force behind the continuity of consciousness. When we die, the body disintegrates, but the mind stream, carrying the karmic imprints of our past actions, continues. This stream of consciousness is drawn to a new life, a new body, where it will begin again, shaped by the accumulated karma from past lives. The circumstances of our next life, our family, our environment, and even our personality, are determined by the karmic seeds planted in previous lives. This is why Buddhism emphasizes ethical conduct and mindfulness. The actions we take today have consequences, not only in this life but in the future lives that follow. By cultivating positive karma through actions rooted in compassion, wisdom, and kindness, we can create the conditions for a better, more peaceful future, not just in this life, but in lives to come. While Buddhism offers a spiritual framework for understanding the continuity of consciousness, modern science has begun to explore similar ideas through the lens of neuroscience. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections in response to experience, offers a fascinating parallel to the Buddhist view of consciousness as a continuous stream that evolves over time. Just as the river is shaped by the landscape it flows through, our consciousness is shaped by the experiences and actions we accumulate over time. Neuroplasticity suggests that the brain is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic, ever-changing system that responds to the conditions we create. In the same way, our consciousness is shaped by our actions, thoughts, and intentions, which influence our experiences and mental patterns. This scientific view aligns with the Buddhist concept of karma. Just as repeated actions and experiences reshape the brain, our repeated actions and intentions shape the flow of our consciousness. This interplay between consciousness and brain function suggests that the continuity of consciousness is not some esoteric concept confined to religious philosophy, but something that is grounded in the very nature of how our minds and brains function. Reincarnation, when viewed through the lens of the continuity of consciousness, is not a mysterious event or a random occurrence. It is a process of evolution, a continuous unfolding of consciousness shaped by the actions and experiences of past lives. This process is influenced by karma, which guides the conditions of each new life. Each birth is an opportunity for growth, learning, and transformation. In this sense, reincarnation is not something to fear or avoid but something to understand and embrace. It offers us the chance to break free from the cycles of suffering that bind us to the past. Each new life is an opportunity to continue our spiritual journey, to work through the karmic imprints of previous lives, and to move closer to the ultimate goal of enlightenment. As we reflect on the continuity of consciousness and the workings of reincarnation, we are reminded of the impermanence of all things. Just as the river flows endlessly, changing and evolving, so too does our consciousness, a continuous process of becoming, shaped by our actions, our thoughts, and our intentions. Understanding this process is key to understanding ourselves and the world around us, and it is through this understanding that we can break free from the cycle of suffering and move towards liberation. In the end, the question of how reincarnation works is not just about understanding the mechanics of past lives, but about understanding the nature of existence itself. It is about recognizing that our consciousness is not a fixed entity but a dynamic, ever-evolving stream that flows through time, shaped by the choices we make and the actions we take. This understanding empowers us to live more mindfully, more compassionately, and with greater awareness of the interconnectedness of all beings. It invites us to look beyond the confines of a single lifetime and to see ourselves as part of a much larger, ongoing process of growth and transformation. Part 5. Karma and the Law of Cause and Effect. Karma is one of the most fundamental concepts in Buddhism, and it plays a central role in understanding the process of reincarnation. At its core, karma is the law of cause and effect, the idea that every action, thought, and intention we have creates an imprint on our consciousness. These imprints, or karmic seeds, accumulate over time and influence not just our current experiences but also the conditions of our future lives. In Buddhism, karma is not simply about moral judgment or cosmic rewards and punishments. It is, instead, a deeply intricate system that governs how we interact with the world around us and how the world responds to us. Every action we take, every word we speak, and every thought we have ripples through the fabric of our existence, leaving lasting impressions that shape not only our present circumstances but also our future destinies. This interconnectedness between our actions and their consequences forms the very foundation of Buddhist teachings on reincarnation and the cycle of birth and rebirth. To understand how karma works in the context of reincarnation, we need to recognize that karma is not just about what happens to us in this lifetime. It is a chain of interconnected actions that stretches back through time, influencing not only our current lives but the lives we have lived before and the lives we will live in the future. Karma is, in essence, the continuation of our consciousness through different lifetimes, influenced by the seeds we plant in each of our previous incarnations. One of the most crucial aspects of karma is the idea that it is not just about the actions we take, but about the intentions behind those actions. Buddhism teaches that karma is based on intention, or satana. It is not simply our actions that matter, but the mental state that accompanies those actions. Whether we act out of love, compassion, and wisdom, or out of hatred, greed, and ignorance, determines the nature of the karma we create. For example, two people may perform the same action, such as giving a gift, but if one person does so with pure, selfless intentions, while the other does so to gain favor or recognition, the karmic results of those actions will be very different. The first person has created positive karma, while the second person, despite performing the same outward action, has created karmic imprints that are less positive, as the action was motivated by selfish desire rather than compassion or altruism. This highlights the importance of mindfulness and awareness in our daily lives. It is not enough to merely follow external rules or moral codes, it is the underlying intentions behind our actions that ultimately shape our karmic trajectory. In this way, karma provides us with a profound tool for self-reflection. By examining our intentions, we can better understand the karmic imprints we are creating and make conscious choices to cultivate positive karma that will lead to liberation rather than suffering. While karma is the law of cause and effect, it is also the force that links one lifetime to the next. In the Buddhist understanding of reincarnation, karma does not only shape the conditions of our present life but also the conditions of our future lives. When we die, our body ceases to exist, but our consciousness, along with the accumulated karmic imprints, continues. These karmic imprints carry forward, guiding the conditions of the next life. This process is often compared to the flame of a candle. When one candle is lit from another, the flame is not the same as the original one, but it is still the same flame in a sense. Similarly, our consciousness in one life is not identical to the consciousness in the next, but there is an unbroken continuity, shaped by the karmic imprints of the previous life. The mental and emotional habits we cultivate, the actions we take, and the experiences we undergo in one life create the conditions for the next life. This continuity is not something we are always aware of, but it is always present, operating in the background, shaping our destinies. The Buddhist teaching on karma and rebirth emphasizes that the circumstances of our next life, our family, our social status, our environment, and even our character traits, are not random but are influenced by the karma we have accumulated in previous lives. If we were born into a difficult situation or experience suffering in this life, it is not a punishment or a stroke of bad luck, but rather the result of past actions and choices. Conversely, if we experience joy, privilege, or prosperity, it is a reflection of the positive karma we have cultivated in the past. But karma does not dictate our fate in a deterministic way. While it shapes the conditions of our birth, it does not completely determine who we are or what we do. Buddhism teaches that we always have the capacity to transform our karma through conscious action, awareness, and wisdom. In other words, while our past karma influences our present circumstances, we are not bound by it. We can always change the course of our future by making positive choices and cultivating wholesome intentions. Karma is not just a distant, abstract concept, but a practical principle that operates in our daily lives. Every moment is an opportunity to create positive karma, whether through our thoughts, words, or actions. By acting with mindfulness and compassion, we can create ripples of positive energy that affect not only our own lives but the lives of those around us. Each small act of kindness, generosity, or patience has the potential to create a karmic imprint that will manifest in the future, both in this life and in future lives. Buddhism teaches that by becoming aware of our intentions and actions, we can gradually purify our karma and create the conditions for enlightenment. It is not about seeking rewards or avoiding punishment, but about aligning ourselves with the natural laws of the universe. When we live in accordance with the principles of compassion, wisdom, and non-attachment, we naturally create positive karma, which leads to greater peace and happiness. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate positive karma is through the practice of meditation. Meditation helps us to develop mindfulness, which allows us to become more aware of our thoughts and intentions. As we become more mindful, we can make conscious choices that align with the principles of loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom. Through meditation, we begin to see the interconnectedness of all beings and recognize that our actions have far-reaching consequences. This understanding leads us to act with greater awareness, kindness, and compassion, thereby creating positive karma and moving closer to liberation. One of the key aspects of karma that Buddhism teaches is that the fruits of our actions are not always immediate. Just as a seed takes time to grow into a tree, the effects of our actions may take lifetimes to manifest. The results of our past actions can ripen in future lives, often in ways we cannot predict or control. However, this long-term view of karma is not meant to dishearten us but to offer hope. It teaches us that every positive action we take, no matter how small, contributes to the unfolding of a better future, not just for ourselves but for others as well. This understanding of karma as a long-term process encourages us to think beyond the immediate and to consider the lasting effects of our actions. It reminds us that even in the face of adversity or suffering, we can always cultivate positive karma and create the conditions for future happiness and liberation. Every moment is an opportunity to shape our future through conscious, intentional action. Buddhism teaches that the ultimate goal of karma is not to accumulate merit or reward, but to transcend the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth altogether. This is the path of liberation, or nirvana, where we are no longer bound by the laws of karma. Instead, we live in perfect peace, free from the attachments and desires that drive the cycle of samsara. At its heart, the law of karma is a teaching about the interconnectedness of all beings. It shows us that our actions affect not only ourselves but also those around us. When we act with compassion and wisdom, we create positive karma that ripples out into the world, benefiting others as well as ourselves. The more we recognize this interconnectedness, the more we understand that the path to liberation is not a solitary journey but one that is shared with all beings. By cultivating compassion for others and working to alleviate their suffering, we create the conditions for our own liberation as well. This interconnectedness is what makes karma such a powerful tool for spiritual growth. It teaches us that our actions matter, not just in terms of our own future but in terms of the greater good. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every gesture of love and compassion creates a ripple that affects the world around us. Through our actions, we have the power to transform not only our own lives but the lives of others, creating a more peaceful, compassionate world for all. In the end, karma is not about seeking rewards or avoiding punishment, but about understanding the deep interconnection of all life. It is about acting with awareness and compassion, knowing that every action we take shapes the world around us. By cultivating positive karma through our thoughts, words, and actions, we can transform our own lives and the world, moving ever closer to the ultimate goal of enlightenment. What did you think? Is reincarnation just a myth, or could there be more to the nature of consciousness than we've been taught? The powerful intersection of Buddhism and science offers us more than just answers. It provides a new way of thinking about the very fabric of existence. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters. And if you found this journey through time and consciousness thought-provoking, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos. Remember, the path to true understanding begins with curiosity, and here at Serenity Path, we're just getting started. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay mindful.